Golden palms like Mount Tai fell from the sky. Boom! It was like a thunderbolt sounded in the sunny sky, and the golden giant palm fell down. The entire sky trembled under this huge impact. Endless divine power exploded, turning into ripples and spreading, destroying the world. Everything. Ah! Fight! We must stop him. Almost everyone rose into the sky at the same time and unleashed their strongest blow. The wheel of fortune, defy the heavens and change your fate. The hymn of life, save all living beings. The song of water and fire, the secret realm of flame. The sword of destruction of thousands of calamities, the sword of destruction of reincarnation. 1. The sound of fierce shouting resounded throughout the world, and various kinds of divine power flashed. The light spread across the world and penetrated the 3 realms and 5 elements. At this moment, there was only a brilliant light left in the whole world. It was like the water from all over the world was pouring down. It was like a wave-like tide pouring down. The world here became a misty world. Huh, stupid. Sergeant Sun sneered, and his golden palm fell directly. Bang! A roar resounded throughout the world, like 2 huge waves colliding head-on. The overflowing energy swept across, and the void was directly torn into nothingness, leaving only waves of energy surging, annihilating everything. Pft! Ah! Pft! All kinds of shrill roars sounded. Bispham and others all turned pale, with blood splattering from their mouths. The robe on his body was torn, and there were countless blood stains all over his body, like cracked porcelain that might break at any time. Not only Bispham and the others, these middle-ranking spiritual gods. Even Adcock and other high-ranking spiritual gods fell from the sky one by one, with blood gushing out from everywhere on their bodies, and they were in a miserable state. Damn it! Bispham was covered in blood, with blood streaks flowing from his 7 orifices, looking sad and angry. Everyone looked angry, but deep in their eyes, there was a deep sense of helplessness. The opponent is simply too powerful and cannot be resisted by them now. It's ridiculous for a group of ants to try to shake the sky. Sergeant Sun stepped forward, his eyes full of contempt and disdain. At the same time, his right hand swung out again. Boom! The huge golden palm fell down, wrapping it towards everyone. Above the sky, huge energy spurted out, and blood spurted out from everyone's mouths. They fell hard again, all of them were in a mess, covered in blood. What should I do? Bispham was anxious, watching Sergeant Sun walk down from the sky like a god. But there is nothing you can do. Huh? Sergeant Sun looked at Bispham and others with cold eyes and stretched out his right hand. Countless golden threads condensed in the void. Finally, a golden silk net formed, covering Bispham and others. Open it. Broken. Although Bispham and others were seriously injured, they still tried their best to resist and roared repeatedly. However, the golden thread condensed by Sergeant Sun's divine power was extremely strong. No matter how Bispham and the others struggled, it was all in vain and they were wrapped up. You native people of Stern Continent, I still have a use for you. I won't kill you now, but you can be used to lure brought out later. Sergeant Sun said coldly, and the next moment, his eyes fell on Adcock's body. As for you traitors, today, I will clean up the door for His Majesty, the Dark God King. Sergeant Sun's expression was ferocious, and his figure suddenly flew out. Boom! Bright rays of light suddenly appeared in the void. Each of these rays of light was thousands of feet long, shining with golden light. Countless runes and avenue rules circulated on it, shocking the void and slashing at Adcock and others. People. Wherever the golden light passed, the void was shattered layer by layer, turning into the smallest flow of particles. The endless energy caused the world to collapse. Such terrifying energy was obviously going to kill Adcock and the others. Sergeant Sun, we will fight with you. A strong crisis arose in the minds of Adcock and others, as if they were being stared at by some kind of terrifying wild beast. The trembling fear that arose everywhere instantly spread to the whole bodies of Adcock and others. Boom! 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 The 3 Adcocks, who were seriously injured and covered in blood, all glowed with brilliant light, as if some kind of seal in their bodies had been opened instantly, and the 3 people's bodies were covered with blood. The breath rose at an alarming speed. At the critical moment of life and death, the 3 Adcocks, as high-ranking spiritual gods, no longer hesitated and unleashed their most powerful power, because they knew that once they had reservations, they would face them. There will be only one way to perish. Chi. Boo. Boom. The bright light tore through the world, and 3 red lights, containing the ultimate divine power, surged out from the bodies of Adcock and the others. In the man's ferocious gaze, he collided hard with Sargenson's attack. Die! The 3 Adcocks roared in their hearts. Boom! A deafening roar resounded, and endless streams of light overflowed between the sky and the earth. Under the attacks from both sides, the world turned into a haze and became a world of streams of light. Kaka! A scene that shocked the 3 Adcocks happened. In the void, the full strength of the 3 of them was concentrated. Under Sargenson's attack, it was like white snow in the sun, and it quickly melted, and finally torn to pieces. Powerful energy penetrated the sky and the earth and hit the 3 Adcocks hard. Pfft! Blood and flesh scattered between the sky and the earth. Sargenson's blow directly penetrated the bodies of the 3 people. White bone stubble and blurred flesh and blood spattered, and the world became a bloody world. What? This is impossible. But the previous blow concentrated all the strength of the 3 of us. Even the star god may not be able to block it easily. He will definitely be injured, but you Adcock. The eyes of the 3 people were full of horror and confusion. Star god? Haha, there are more brats from the battlefield of the gods. I am no longer there. A sneer burst out from the corner of Sargenson's mouth, and there was an astonishing power in his body that seemed to be resurrected, shocking the world. Sargenson, you actually advanced to the moonlight goddess. The faces of the 3 Adcocks were completely pale, and there was no trace of blood anymore. Only despair emerged from the depths of their eyes. Now that you know it, you should stop resisting. You are lucky to die in my hands, Sargenson. Sargenson said indifferently, with a trace of murderous intent passing through his eyes, and he used his right hand again, swinging out. Endless golden divine power spurted out, quickly attacking the 3 Adcocks. Die! Sargenson shouted in his heart, his eyes ferocious, while Adcock and others not far away just looked at this attack in horror that they could not resist at all. Pfft! However, at the moment when this golden torrent was about to annihilate Adcock and others, a 5-color divine rainbow suddenly appeared in the void, blocking Adcock and others directly in front of them. If you want to kill my Jason's men, have you got my consent? The indifferent voice echoed between heaven and earth. In front of Adcock and others, a black-haired young man raised his head indifferently, his eyes showing the suppression of the eternal blue sky. Of majesty. In the void, endless divine power surged, annihilating everything. A tall shadow wearing a gray robe and long black hair stood proudly in the void, staring coldly at Sargenson not far away. His pair of black eyes were cold and indifferent, like a god of war from ancient times, filled with unbridled fighting spirit. This black-haired young man is none other than Jason's master, who has just been promoted to star god and was driven out of the god transformation island. Master Jason! Jason! At this moment, everyone let out excited exclamations. The voice, those words, were full of joy and excitement, and a kind of joy of surviving the disaster bloomed from the depths of their hearts. What, you are Jason, the #1 genius in the Stern Continent? Didn't you just advance to the god level? Why now? Sargenson looked at Jason in surprise, with an incomprehensible flicker in the depths of his eyes. Confidence. Sargenson had naturally heard about the #1 genius in Stern Continent, but according to the information he obtained, Jason was one of the first batch of strong men sent by His Majesty, the Dark God King, to Stern decades ago. When he was in Stern Continent, he was promoted to the god level. Although his talent was astonishing and he destroyed the God King's 2 invasions of Stern Continent, no matter what, after all, it didn't take long for him to advance to the god level. At most, he was only a middle-aged man. A spiritual god. But now, with Sergeant Sun's strength, he could see at a glance that Jason, who had caught one of his moves earlier, had been promoted to Star God, which made Sergeant Sun feel shocked. However, the next moment, a cold light flashed through Sergeant Sun's eyes. It's really surprising. I didn't expect that such a genius would appear in this continent of Stern. In just a few decades, he rose from a low-ranking spiritual god to a starry god. Such a talent is rare even in the world of gods. It's a rare thing to see in 10,000 years. It's really surprising. It's a pity that such a genius will die in my hands today. I am really excited to be able to kill such a genius. Sergeant Sun, he sneered, and his blonde hair flew up automatically without wind, and his face was filled with a crazy smile. Oh, really? A sneer appeared at the corner of Jason's mouth. I want to see what you are capable of, and how dare you make such arrogant remarks. Stay back first. Jason said to Adakak, and the others waved their hands with murderous intent in their eyes. Master, this Sergeant Sun is a moonlight god. Master, you must be careful. Adcock and others looked at Jason, warned carefully, and at the same time stepped back. Chong. Facing Jason, Sergeant Sun did not dare to be careless. He waved his right hand and a golden long sword suddenly appeared in his hand. This golden long sword was 2 feet long and looked like a golden sword. Transformed into a long dragon, a coat appeared, and a dragon roar appeared between heaven and earth. This dragon roar was extremely passionate, soaring straight into the sky, and wherever it passed, the void exploded layer by layer. This key, the golden dragon scale sword, a legendary mid-level artifact. It is said that there is an ancient divine beast golden dragon sealed in this golden dragon scale sword. The dragon's soul is condensed and extremely powerful. The master has just been promoted to the star god. He can cover it. What? Seeing the golden sword, the 3 Adcocks showed nervous expressions on their faces. Although they had an inexplicable trust in Jason in their hearts, Sergeant Sun, as the moonlight god, no longer with such an artifact, and Jason, after all, has just been promoted to Star God, can Master Jason really stop Sergeant Sun? In fact, if Jason hadn't subdued all 3 of their upper-level spiritual gods and more than 10 middle-level spiritual gods with the strength of the middle-level spiritual god, they would never have dared to imagine that Jason could resist Sajin with the Star God. Tessun is the moon-glowing god. You must know that although the difference between Xingyao God and Yuehui God is only 1 level, their strength is not at the same level at all. Take my move and transform into a dragon in the sky. Sergeant Sun took out the golden dragon scale sword in his hand and struck Jason directly with the sword without any pause. Whoops! The golden dragon-shaped sword passed through the void, and a golden thread appeared in the void. This thread was extremely weak at first, but as it flew towards Jason, the golden thread continued to get brighter, and it split quickly. 1 became 2, 2 became 4, and 4 became smaller in the blink of an eye. It turned into a dazzling golden light that filled the sky, densely packed, and wrapped around Jason. Roar! At the moment when the golden threads in the sky were about to cover Jason, a loud dragon roar sounded. In the golden light in the sky, the shadow of a golden dragon appeared, slowly solidified, and finally seemed to turn into the real giant dragon. Every scale on its body is extremely clear, its cold and sharp eyes stared at Jason, vividly, its huge mouth opened, and it opened its mouth to Jason. Evil beast, seeking death. Jason's eyes bloomed with 5-color divine rainbows, and he shouted loudly. In his eyes, 2 5-color divine lights surged out, and his body not only did not retreat, but fiercely faced it. Boom! A black heavy sword appeared in Jason's hand, and he aimed it at the golden dragon. The void was torn apart like cloth, revealing a dark crack in space, and the black épée rushed towards the golden dragon like a meteor. Facing Jason's épée attack, the golden dragon showed a humane and mocking smile in the depths of its eyes. Golden rays of light condensed on its body, forming a golden cone of light in front of it, hitting the black heavy sword. At the moment when a sword and a dragon were about to collide. The god of war technique, the god of war possessed. The god-destroying technique, the god of killing comes to the world. Two rays of light flashed in Jason's eyes, and two inexplicable vast divine powers suddenly blessed the black heavy sword. Boom! The heaven and earth shattered, the earth cracked, and the void exploded for thousands of miles. The entire sky instantly turned into chaos, endless divine power exploded, and everything in the world became nothingness and mist. Among the thousands of divine powers, a black heavy sword stood on the golden cone of light on the head of the golden dragon. An invisible divine power spread out. The golden cone of light instantly shattered and turned into a golden light that filled the sky, bursting out. In all directions, the black épée's power remained unabated and struck the golden dragon's head hard again. Poof! Like a giant axe chopping wood, a dull sound roared across the world. The golden dragon wailed, with a hint of pain in its eyes. The next moment, countless cracks appeared on its body, and its entire body exploded. Turned into a rainbow that filled the sky and dissipated in the wind. What? Not far away, Sargenson's eyes narrowed and he raised the sword in his hand again. The golden dragon scale sword defies heaven and kills gods one by one. Endless divine light erupted in Sargenson's body. His whole body and the golden sword quickly merged into one, turning into a golden rainbow light that tore apart the heaven and earth. Majestic Dang swarmed towards Jason. My god-destroying move can defy the heavens. Even an ordinary moonglory god can be defeated by my sword. I don't believe you, a little star-glory god can stop it. Golden rainbow light. Sargenson's cold voice came, carrying endless vast divine power and sweeping around. Pfft. Yuan Mei, Adcock and Dong Dong couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood under the pull of this terrifying aura. Their expressions were sluggish, and then they all retreated with shock and worry. He looked towards Jason where the golden rainbow light fell. This reverse ginseng slaying god is so powerful that just the rippling energy can seriously injure high-ranking spiritual gods like them. Can the master really stop it? Feeling this unparalleled aura, Jason's body rippled slightly in the void. His eyes looked solemnly at the golden rainbow. Jason could feel a strong sense of crisis rising in his heart. Rise up. Is this the strength of the moonlight god? It really shouldn't be underestimated. Jason whispered in his heart, as if thousands of golden needles were descending on the surface of his body, arousing a layer of goosebumps. At the same time, an inexplicable energy enveloped the world, wrapping Jason's body actually solidified the surrounding void, trapping Jason in this small space between heaven and earth. Haha, brat, you have nowhere to hide under my heaven-defying slaying. Just die. Sargenson's wild laughter echoed. Hide? Humph, it's true that you can't hide, but in my Jason's dictionary, there is no word hide at all, so how can I hide? Jason's mighty voice resounded throughout the world, and as a divine light suddenly burst out from his eyes, and he stepped forward suddenly under Sargenson's attack, raising the black heavy sword in his hand. The second form of the god-destroying technique, exterminating God's punishment. A voice as cold as a god's king came out of his mouth, and immediately the black heavy sword held high in Jason's hand slashed down. Boom! The world returned to ruins, and everything around seemed to be void under this sword. Between the sky and the earth, countless black sword images were like a catastrophe, crashing down from the sky, as if this was not Jason's sword, but it was the punishment that heaven and earth inflicted on those who rebelled against heaven, leaving an unforgettable scene in everyone's mind. The three god-killing techniques in the god-destroying technique are a set of god-level techniques that Jason obtained when he was an 8th-level intermediate emperor spiritual master. Back then, Jason, with his 8th-level emperor spiritual master's strength, was able to evolve the first form, but Jason has always been stuck in the first form and was unable to successfully evolve the second form. Now, after Jason was promoted to the Star God, he finally fully understood the second form and became Jason's killer move. In the void, thousands of black sword shadows fell, and they fell hard on the golden rainbow light formed by Sergeant Sun and the golden dragon scale sword. Bang! Like the collision of a golden drum, the golden rainbow light transformed by Sergeant Sun shook violently under the bombardment of the god of extinction, revealing his horrified face. Boom! 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 One after another, black divine punishments came, and Sergeant Sun was knocked out of the state where the man and the sword were united. There was fear on his face, and he spoke repeatedly roaring, resisting the attack of the god of destruction. Pfft! Blood bloomed in the void. Sergeant Sun was slashed and retreated repeatedly, his body dripping with blood and in a state of embarrassment. Sword shadow streaming light. Whoops! He shouted loudly as he fled in panic. His whole body turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the place where Bispham and others were trapped by him with golden threads. And at the same time an invisible energy was released from his body, controlling the contraction of the golden thread. Ah! Under Sergeant Sun's attack, Bispham and others suddenly let out painful sounds. Jason, stop, if you attack again, I will let these people from the Alchemist Tower be buried with me. Sergeant Sun's eyes were red, and he shouted loudly, looking crazy. In the void above the Elixir Tower, Sergeant Sun was in an extremely embarrassed state, looking at Jason with red eyes. On his body, golden rays of light continued to surge out, destroying Bispham, who was previously controlled by him. The others are all firmly imprisoned. Sergeant Sun, who was majestic before, like a god descending to earth, is now in a miserable state. The robe on his body has long been damaged by the previous punishment of the god of extinction. His long golden hair has also become a little dark, and blood lines have appeared on his body. It was cracked, with a sluggish expression, and blood was constantly dripping from the corners of the mouth. It was obvious that the origin had been injured by Jason's previous attack. The god-destroying killing technique was a peerless divine art specially created by the East Pole god King Stern for the killing god brought based on the characteristics of his 5 great generals. Back then, Brot had a great reputation in the heavenly god realm. Their 5 great generals were known as the strongest gods under the god king in the heavenly god realm, and they had great prestige. It can be said that this god-destroying killing technique is something that even the sun gods covet. It is extremely powerful. When the first god-killing technique comes to the world, it usually needs to reach the god level before it can be used. However, Jason has the East Pole Godmeister. Un's bloodline can only be used by an 8th-level emperor spiritual master, but the second form of divine punishment of extermination requires reaching the realm of gods before it can be used. As for the last form of Tianxia Yuan Shen, it can only be used by reaching the realm of gods. The sun god is the one who can evolve, which can be called a heaven-defying miraculous skill. Coupled with Jason's understanding of the god of medicine, possession of the 5-element spirit pearl and the heart of the god king, as well as the heaven-defying skills such as the spirit god art and the god of war art, the defeat of Sergeant Sun was surprising, but it was also within Jason's expectation. In the void, Sergeant Sun looked at Jason with red eyes. In his body, the golden divine power was like a wave, constantly surging, squeezing Bispham and others, causing Bispham, who was in the golden silk sphere, to spam, and the others were in great pain, their expressions distorted. Jason, don't worry about us killing this guy. However, despite the pain, there was no sign of mercy on the faces of Bispham and others, and there was determination in their eyes. Let them go, and I'll let you go. Jason looked at Sergeant Sun coldly and spoke indifferently, without any expression. Jason, you, the people in Bispham suddenly shouted anxiously. Haha. However, before they could finish their words, Sergeant Sun burst into laughter. You want me to let them go? You are too ridiculous. I count to 3 and you cut off both of your arms. Otherwise, I will kill them all in front of you. Sergeant Sun looked ferocious. He looked at Jason with eyes full of sternness and viciousness. No one in this world can threaten me, Jason said calmly, his eyes calm, but his right hand was quietly clenched. Really? I don't care how many there are. I'll start counting from now on. If you don't take action by 3, I will kill the first person first. Sergeant Sun's eyes fell coldly on the people around him. An evil smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Let me see which one should be killed first. Jason, don't listen to him, kill him quickly. Kill this bitch. Cassinus and others, each one of them looked resolutely and shouted loudly. It was not that they did not care about their own life or death, but that they understood that if Jason was controlled by Sergeant Sun because of him, once he succumbed, Sergeant Sun would not let him go. These people. Humph, it seems that none of you are afraid of death, so I will help you. Sergeant Sun's eyes were cold as he scanned the crowd and finally landed on Lan Yuigusan. You screamed the loudest, so I'll start with you. Sergeant Sun's eyes narrowed, and he raised his right hand suddenly. Countless golden threads instantly poured out of his hand, sweeping up Lan Yuigusan and pulling her out of the golden mesh. Humph. Lan Yuigusan snorted coldly, looking into the distance, coldly, without even frowning. Exit. Beg for mercy. Sergeant Sun was secretly angry. With a wave of his hand, countless golden threads were wrapped around Lan Yuigusan. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of Lan Yuigusan's mouth, but he didn't say a word. Damn it. Sergeant Sun was furious and could only look at Jason. I count to 3. If you don't cut off your arms, I will kill her. One by one. The cold voice echoed between heaven and earth. 2. Sergeant Sun groaned and looked at Jason. He clenched his right hand slightly, and countless golden threads wrapped Lan Yuigusan tighter and tighter. At the same time, he shouted at Jason, one last word, if you don't take action, don't blame me for being merciless. Sergeant Sun slowly opened his mouth and looked at Jason coldly, about to say the last word. Boom. However, before Sergeant Sun could say the last word, Jason, who had been silent in the void, suddenly had a flash of light in his eyes, and at the same time, his whole body rushed forward. Who? He waved his right hand violently at Sergeant Sun's location. Boom. Endless brilliance suddenly swayed out from Jason's hand. These were dazzling divine radiances, 6 in total, 108, occupying one position between heaven and earth, scattered around Sergeant Sun, and in an instant, Sergeant Sun was trapped in it. The sky was filled with vast divine glory. Each of these light pillars was shining with brilliant light, extremely magnificent, and blooming with a powerful aura. The endless aura of divine power spread, and surrounded wherever it passed. The golden threads on Bispham, Lan Yuigusan and others were like white snow meeting the sun, melting instantly, and turning into nothingness in the blink of an eye. Sergeant Sun felt it instantly, and the bite that he controlled through the golden threads, the connection between Spam and others suddenly disappeared at this moment. Is this formation? Sergeant Sun was shocked. He didn't expect that Jason would dare to take action under such circumstances. Boom. Jason turned into a black stream of light in the distance and rushed towards Sergeant Sun. Damn it. Sergeant Sun was shocked and angry, knowing that he was no match for Jason. His eyes instantly fell on Lan Yuigusan, who was trying to escape like lightning. His left hand turned into a golden giant palm, and he fiercely covered Lan Yuigusan's fall. Jason, if you don't stop, I will kill her. Sergeant Sun roared angrily, but Jason turned a deaf ear, and the black épée in his hand turned into a black lightning and fell from the sky. Ah! Sergeant Sun's heart skipped a beat, and without any hesitation, Sergeant Sun's golden palm directly grabbed Lan Yuigusan. Since you don't stop, then she will die for me. The golden giant palm was like a falling meteor, hitting Lan Yuigusan hard. Although Lan Yuigusan had just been promoted to the middle spiritual god not long ago, if he was caught by Sergeant Sun, the Moonlight God, I am afraid that Blue Moon Goosen will not be able to withstand it at all, and will turn into ashes. Buzz. At the moment when Sergeant Sun's giant golden palm was about to capture Lan Yugusen's body surface suddenly lit up with a blue light rainbow, and the shadow of a huge sacred tree appeared in the blue sky. Yugusen's head suddenly appeared, blocking the giant golden palm. Under the golden giant palm, the phantom of the green sacred tree kept trembling, making bursts of explosions, and finally shattered under the golden giant palm. This is it. Sergeant Sun's eyes widened in the heart of the saint, and he exclaimed in surprise. The next moment, the black lightning transformed from the heavy sword in Jason's hand struck Sergeant Sun hard. Bang! Sergeant Sun was thrown away, and a wound several feet long was exposed on his chest. His body trembled and blood spurted out. Go to hell! Jason shouted fiercely, with an angry look on his face, and an astonishing power suddenly burst out in his body. The heaven and earth refining technique refines the heaven and the earth one by one. A voice like a god came out coldly from Jason's mouth, and an invisible force instantly enveloped Sergeant Sun not far away. Buzz! An astonishing force suddenly emerged in the world. In the void, Jason is like a god living in the world, standing proudly on the world. His cold eyes are staring at Sergeant Sun not far away, like a god who came from ancient times, despising all things in the world. His eyes are calm, without a trace of anger. Emotion. At this moment, in his eyes, the Sergeant Sun in front of him seemed to be no longer a person, let alone a powerful moonlight god, but an ordinary elixir. Boom! The world is in chaos, and the misty chaotic energy evolves between the heaven and the earth, like a waterfall falling from the sky. Wisps, wisps, each wisp contains a shuddering aura, pouring down from the sky. No one can describe this moment. In everyone's feeling, everything in heaven and earth has disappeared, leaving only Jason's indifferent back. His hands are waving like two big millstones, using heaven and earth as containers, crushing, refining all things in the world. Ah! Sergeant Sun let out a shrill roar in the midst of thousands of misty auras of chaos. Countless auras of chaos wrapped around his body, constantly lingering and obliterating him. Bah, bah, bah! Sergeant Sun's originally scarred body exploded. Cracks appeared quickly on his divine body. Puffs of blood spattered from it, and there were waves of low explosions. There was a sound inside his body, and his bones and muscles were shattered. Protect me! Sergeant Sun's expression was distorted, and he roared with all his strength. Endless golden rainbows burst out from his body instantly. Thousands of golden rainbows dyed the world into golden yellow. The terrifying power of the moonlight god was continuously released, condensed, and finally formed a golden shield on his body. At the same time, Sergeant Sun's whole body flew toward the sky not far away like lightning. He could feel that under Jason's previous bombardment, his body had suffered huge trauma, and his divine body was shattered. A shuddering sense of crisis rose up in his heart and spread throughout his body in an instant. As the moonlight god, Sergeant Sun has a long in his life. In the crisis-ridden world of the god realm, he went through countless hardships, broke through the forbidden area of death, fought against peerless evil beasts, and escaped with his life at the hands of spiritual gods who were much stronger than him, but he has never been like today. At this moment, death was so close to him. At this moment, he no longer had the courage to face Jason. There was only one thought rising in his heart, that is, to escape from this place. Boom! The endless moonlight divine power was instantly burned by Sergeant Sun, forming a divine power that swept everything. There was a peerless and terrifying energy spreading, and everything exploded, just to leave this place. How can I let the person who hurt me you left? The cold words resounded in the sky, with endless anger suppressed in them. In the void, Jason stared coldly at Sergeant Sun, who turned into a golden light and fled quickly, and squeezed hard in the void with his hands. Boom! In the void, two huge 5-color palms emerged, slapped hard, and put Sergeant Sun in the center. It was as if the sky and the earth had overlapped at this moment, and infinite light bloomed, drowning everything. Kakaka harsh the sound of breaking sounded, and in Sargenson's horrified eyes, the golden shield formed by the burning of the moonlight heaven's divine power in his body was as fragile as an egg shell, and was instantly squeezed into pieces, and the two waves swept everything. The five-color rainbow crashed towards Sargentson. No! Sargenson's eyes widened and he let out a shrill roar. He roared in fright and anger, trying to block the fatal blow, but it was useless. The endless breath of chaos instantly annihilated him, and it disappeared into a bloody mist. The heaven and earth refining technique is the supreme skill of God King Stern. It uses the science of elixirs as its technology, treats everything in the world as elixirs, and uses heaven and earth as its furnace to refine everything. If it were before, with the strength of Jason's superior spiritual god, using the heaven and earth refining technique, it would be impossible to seriously injure Sargentson, who is the moonlight god. After all, there are too many differences between the two, but just when Sargentson attacked, Jason happened to be promoted to the 10th level of Medicine God. Medicine God, this is an extremely heavy title. It represents the limit of the Great Road, returns to nature, evolves all things, creates life, and is omnipotent. With Jason's attainments as the 10th level Medicine God, combined with the heaven-defying refining technique of heaven and earth, it is too easy to use the magic technique to destroy Sargentson, the moon-glowing god. Heaven and earth refining technique, refining essence. Jason roared in the void, and the torrent of divine power in the sky enveloped Sargentson's flesh and blood, refining it into a pool of golden liquid, and in the liquid, there is a divine chain of laws shining with golden light floating in it. Wow! Jason waved his hands repeatedly. His eyes were like the sun, and his body was like Taiyue. He kept attacking, and terrifying auras burst out from his hands. The world was in chaos, and the terrifying pressure spread for 9 days. The 10 lands spanned the 5 lakes and 4 seas, and all directions returned to the dynasty to dominate the world. Bang! Finally, Sargentson's law god chain exploded and turned into a golden mist. Finally, it was combined with the golden liquid to form a dazzling golden bead, which was absorbed by Jason. In the God of War tower, between the eyebrows. Immediately, everything around him returned to calm, as if nothing had happened. Jason! Master! This in the distance, everyone's faces were filled with shock. They couldn't believe what was happening in front of them. A powerful moonlight god was killed by Jason in the blink of an eye. Refining, this strong visual and psychological shock made their minds buzzing, and they couldn't get over it for a while. At this moment, in everyone's minds, Jason's image suddenly became extremely tall. It formed an everlasting picture that was reflected in everyone's hearts. Jason! At this moment, a weak moan suddenly sounded and appeared in everyone's ears. The voice was full of tenderness and love. Everyone hurriedly turned their heads to look. The scene in front of them made everyone's eyes roll. All are red. In the void, not far away, Blue Moon Goosen's body was emitting cyan light, his face was pale, and his whole figure was like an angel with broken wings, slowly falling from the sky. Lanyu Goosen Jason made an anxious sound, swayed, and quickly hugged the other party into his arms. In Jason's perception, the aura of Lanyu Goosen at this moment was constantly rising and falling, and the breath of life was extremely weak. Previously, although she used her unique talent to block Sargentson's attack, the level gap between the two was too great. Lanyu Goosen was still severely damaged and was about to fall. Lanyu Goosen! Jason hugged Lanyu Goosen with trembling hands. Jason, I can't do it anymore. Lanyu Goosen's face turned pale and he made a weak sound. No, you're fine, you will be fine. Jason looked at Lanyu Goosen, his voice trembling. Ahem. Lanyu Goosen shook his head, with a sad smile on his face. Don't comfort me, I know it myself. Lanyu Goosen looked at Jason tenderly. There is something I have always wanted to say to you, but I couldn't say it. Now I must say it, because I know that if I don't say it, I will have no chance in the future. Lanyu Goosen had a sickly blush on his face. I like you. 2 lines of clear tears slipped quietly from the corners of Lan Yugusen's eyes and fell on Jason's hand. They were cool and warm, just like Lan Yugusen's heart. Silently the long green hair was flying. Lan Yugusen lay quietly in Jason's arms, with tears still in the corners of his eyes, glowing under the refraction of the light. Just like that, Lan Yugusen quietly stopped breathing. Lan Yugu Sr. The shouts from Bisfam and others came from the side. The shouts were like a knife cutting into Jason's heart. Jason was stunned and silently, tears fell down. No, heartbreaking. The sound of lungs instantly echoed throughout the world. When Lan Yugusen quietly closed his eyes, Jason felt his heart break in an instant. Scenes of scenes he had experienced with Lan Yugusen appeared in his mind. I still remember that during their first meeting in the Sky City Trading Hall, Jason got 9 8th Order Emperor level wood spiritual cores from Lan Yugusen, which were used to build the 9 spirits chi gathering formation. I remember that Lan Yugusen came here with great strength and practiced together with me on Huashan Island. I remember the scenes of life and death battles, supporting each other, sharing joys and sorrows. Hold me. Lan Yugusen in the 7-star Sea Forbidden area was worried about Jason and went to the whirlpool alone, so that his clothes were broken and his body was injured. Fortunately, he was rescued by Jason and shyly snuggled into his arms. The Kamikaze Empire, the Cairo Empire, and the 6 geniuses fought bloody battles, sharing life and death time after time. This scene all appeared clearly in Jason's mind. Jason's ears seemed to still be echoing with Lan Yugusen's usual soft voice at this moment. It was calm without any ripples, elegant and indifferent, and her smile was as gorgeous as a white lily. Compared with Claire, Lan Yugusen is not good at expressing. She is always watching silently from the side, like a fairy who has descended from the 9 heavens, elegant and refined, and unconventional. She never asked for anything and was always so indifferent, blooming quietly like an orchid in an empty valley. However, Jason was always accompanied by her along the way. With Lan Yugusen, Jason's heart will not have ups and downs, nor will it be magnificent, but it will be like a lonely boat returning to the harbor, and there will be an unprecedented tranquility in his heart. Inadvertently, Jason discovered that before he knew it, neither of them could live without the other. No, it won't. Jason couldn't accept it. Jason couldn't believe the scene in front of him. Jason, who would never be defeated by any difficulty or danger, felt his heart completely lose its vitality at this moment and became ashen. This Bisfam was also stunned. Blue Moon Gusen, Cassinus and the others were also stunned. They had been with Jason for so long, and they had never seen Jason like this before. Those sharp black eyes were full of sadness and deathly silence, which even made everyone tremble in their hearts. How desperate is this? Jason! Everyone gathered around him, almost crying. Boom! However, at this moment, a dazzling cyan light rainbow suddenly erupted from Lan Yugusen's lifeless body. This cyan light rainbow towered into the sky, and a huge holy tree emptied out. The shadow emerged in the void, and then continued to get smaller. In Jason's arms, Lan Yugusen's body slowly disappeared. Finally, a green light rainbow filled the sky, leaving only an exquisite small tree several inches high. In Jason's hands. This scene made everyone stunned. Jason also stared blankly at the sacred tree in his hand, his eyes as dead as ever. People from the Saint tribe, this Blue Moon ancient sin is really from the Saint tribe. Transforming into a holy tree after death is a vision that only the bloodline inheritors of the Saint tribe have in the legend. This Blue Moon ancient sin has turned into a holy tribe. Tree, according to the rules of the saints, this Blue Moon ancient sin should not be dead yet. The trembling voices of Adcock and others came from the side. In the void, Jason's body shook violently, and he suddenly turned around with a chi sound, and instantly appeared in front of the 3 Adcocks. He said in disbelief, "Adcock, what are you talking about?" "Saints, what kind of saint?" Jason's expression was excited, and his eyes were filled with an unprecedented sparkle. "Master, it's like this. Adcock said quickly, this saint tribe is a unique race in our world of gods. They were extremely powerful in the world of gods in ancient times. According to legend, they are all made of magic medicine. The psychic transforms into a human form and becomes a race. Each clan member is born with magical medicine. Absorbing their essence can enhance the strength of the spiritual god. Because of this, it is difficult for the saint clan members to survive in the world of gods. They are all hidden. Whereabouts, it is easy to be hunted by spiritual gods, so it is said that it has been completely extinct in the world of gods. In the world of gods, there is also a saying that among the saints, there is a kind of blood inheritor. After they are killed, will not turn into the magic medicine essence, but into the real body. In this state, they do not actually die, but as time goes by, the real body they transformed into will slowly wither. Real death. A member of the holy tribe? Is the body a magical medicine? Channeling human form? A light flashed in Jason's mind, and he suddenly woke up. With his attainments as a 10th-level medicine god, he recalled all his past experiences with Lan Yugusin and immediately realized that what Adcock and the others said was at least 80% likely to be true. So? The Blue Moon Ancient Sin is not dead yet, it just turned into this holy tree? Jason lowered his head and stared, his whole body trembling slightly. Since the magical medicine has transformed into a spirit, can Blue Moon Gusin transform into a human form from the holy tree and truly be resurrected? Jason murmured, then stared at Adcock. Adcock, tell me, how can this saint be resurrected after turning into a holy tree? Can he be saved? Adcock shook his head, Master, although the news about the saint has been widely circulated in the world of gods, in the past tens of thousands of years, no one has actually seen a saint clan member, so I am not sure whether Lan Yugusin can be saved. At least I have never heard that this saint clan member can also turn into a human form after turning into a holy tree. Ban on the Sidnean and others also shook their heads. Jason's expression suddenly changed. But just because we don't know, it doesn't mean that Lan Yugusin can't be saved. It's just that we have a low status in the god realm and we don't know. You don't know, then who knows? Jason murmured. The saints only exist in the god realm and do not exist in the Stern continent. Jason and the others have never even heard of them, so how can they know how to save them? Jason looked down at the sacred tree in his hand. The several-inch-tall holy tree was crystal clear, petite and exquisite, exuding a soft green light in Jason's hand, but Jason could feel that the vitality in it was dissipating little by little as time passed, although the speed was very slow. But if this continues, one day it will dissipate. No, and Jason couldn't accept it. Although Lan Yugusin has only turned into a holy tree and has not died yet, will he still wither and die in the end? What to do? Lan Yugusin Jason was completely driven crazy. Alas! Bispham and the others looked at Jason's painful expression and sighed in their hearts. This sergeant's son is too strong. He controlled everyone as soon as he made a move. With the strength of his moonlight god, no one can resist it. It would be great if Lord Brought were here. With his strength, he wouldn't be able to resist. This happened. Jason, immersed in sadness, suddenly heard the words Brought. Brought? Jason's body trembled and his eyes suddenly lit up. Lan Yugusin said that he first appeared in the Divine Medicine Palace of Ancestor Stern. I think he must be related to Ancestor Stern. Senior Brought, as the ancestor of the 5 great gods, must know the origin of Lan Yugusin. Maybe he also knows how to save Lan Yugusin. At this moment, a glimmer of hope suddenly appeared in Jason's heart. Yes, Master Brought may have a way to save Lan Yugusin. Bispham and others also said excitedly. Brought? The god of killing, who was one of the 5 great generals under East Pole god King Stern. With his status back then, he must know more about the saints than we do. The 3 Adcocks also nodded repeatedly. And when I was in the god realm, I seem to have heard that when the East Pole god King Stern was still there, because of his identity as the god of medicine, he had a certain relationship with the Saint clan. Banyan also spoke out. Go find Senior Brat. Jason also made up his mind. That's it. Jason looked down at the blue moon goosen that turned into a holy tree in his hand. The holy tree swayed gently as if responding to Jason's gaze. Lanui goosen, hold on. Jason said softly, and immediately looked at Bisfam and others. I'll leave it to you to worry about the Elixir Master Tower. Okay, Jason, go ahead. Bisfam and the others made noises one after another. Jason, don't be too sad. Lanui goosen will definitely be fine. Before you, she was the #1 genius in our Elixir Tower. Cassinus comforted her. Jason tried his best to force out a smile. Immediately, his eyes suddenly became sharp, his body shook violently, and a hole appeared in the void. Jason's body turned into a bolt of lightning, instantly rushed into the crack in space, and disappeared into the void. Cassinus and the others looked at Jason's disappearing back, with tears in their eyes. God, please resurrect Blue Moon goosen * in the void above Stern Continent. A 5-color streak appeared, figures of people flickered in it. Hurry up, faster. Jason thought silently in his heart, and the star power he had just gained from being promoted to Star God was burning to the ground, allowing him to reach the fastest speed. At this moment, Jason had no other thoughts in his mind. All he had was to rush to the Spiritual Beast mountain range as quickly as possible. Lanui goosen, you will be fine. Jason murmured in his heart, looking at the exquisite holy tree in his arms with hope in his eyes. The Spirit Beast mountain range has finally arrived. With Jason flying at full speed, in less than an hour, Jason arrived from the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower to the Spiritual Beast mountain range. Boom! Jason did not make any move to hide his aura, and rushed directly into the Spirit Beast mountain range. The mighty aura dispersed, and the spirit beasts in the entire Spirit Beast mountain range lay on the ground in fear. He looked at the sky with fear in his eyes. Like a 5-color divine light, Jason moved forward quickly. After a moment, he saw the familiar red mountain peak in the distance. Jason's heart trembled. As he flew over at high speed, he immediately shouted anxiously, Brot, Senior Brat. Jason's shout resounded like thunder over the Spirit Beast mountain range, one after another, constantly moving forward. Jason, what do you think? Just when Jason arrived in front of the red mountain and was about to rush in, red fire spiritual power appeared in the void instantly, and then condensed into a fiery red figure. It was Brot, the god of death. Brot stared at Jason. Jason, what happened? Before, he was healing his wounds in his own space, but he suddenly felt Jason's powerful aura coming towards him. At the same time, he heard Jason's anxious voice, and he immediately appeared in the Spirit Beast mountain range. When he was there for the first time before, when he saw Jason, his heart couldn't help but tremble violently. Having been with Jason for such a long time, Brot also had an incomparable understanding of Jason's character. In his mind, no matter what he encountered, Jason has always been extremely calm about anything, even when faced with a life or death crisis. It seems that there is nothing in this world that is worthy of moving him. But at this moment, Jason's face is full of emotion. With those anxious and panicked eyes, Brot never thought that Jason would show such a look. Senior Brot, we were attacked by Sergeant Sun from the God Realm before. Lanui goosen, she is now very dangerous. Jason continued. Sergeant Sun? Didn't he enter that dark and mysterious realm 10 years ago? Why are you still alive? Brot frowned, but immediately he looked at Jason. Where are the Blue Moon goosen people? Where is she now? She is right here. Jason opened his closed hands. In his palms, an exquisite tree several inches tall appeared in front of Brot. Is this a holy tree? Has Lanui goosen fallen? Brot's expression changed. Senior Brot, can Lanui goosen be saved? Jason looked at Brot with hope. As one of the 5 great generals of the East Pole God King, Brot has a long life and an extremely high status in the world of gods. With his knowledge, he said there might be a way to save Brot. Jason was waiting, his heart starting to tremble. If Brat said he couldn't, Jason himself might not know what to do. Alas, staring after looking at the sacred tree transformed by Lanuigusen for a while, Brat couldn't help but sighed. How is it? Jason continued. Jason Lanuigusen is hopeless. Since she has fallen and turned into a sacred forest, she will only wither. Brat said bitterly. Jason's body was shaken, and he was completely frozen there as if he had been struck by thunder. Immediately, his eyes suddenly turned red, and he looked at Brat eagerly. No, impossible, Senior Brat, Lanuigusen will definitely be saved, isn't she? Jason looked like he was crazy, with disbelief in his eyes. Oh. Brat asked Jason to sigh. Actually, it is hopeless, but there is still a way, but this method is obscure and impossible to achieve at all. What solution? Jason's heart was shaking, and he was anxious. At this moment, he was like a drowning man grasping the last life-saving straw with great urgency. Brat did not answer, but looked at Jason. Jason, I think you don't know the origin of Lanuigusen, right? Is he from the Holy Clan? Jason said. Yes. Brother nodded. Lanuigusen, she is actually the princess of the Holy Clan of the God Realm. Brat's eyes were full of memories. Back then, His Majesty, the God King, had an extremely close relationship with the Saint Clan. The Saint Clan was extremely special. Everyone was transformed by a natural magical medicine, and the power contained in their bodies, the magic medicine essence, is comparable to a god-level medicine. If a Saint Clan member is killed, the magic medicine essence turned into can completely enable a high-ranking spiritual god to easily advance to the star god. This is still an ordinary tribesman, but the bloodline inheritors among them are even more special. The magic medicine essence contained in them is incredible. Therefore, in the world of gods, saint tribesmen are often hunted down by other tribes and forces. Countless thousands of them are often hunted down by other tribes and forces. Over the years, they could only survive by hiding in some dangerous places in the god realm. Because of his status as the 10th level medicine god, His Majesty the God King was naturally very familiar with the breath of dried magic medicine. In the process of searching for the magic medicine in the Dachuan swamp of the god realm, he accidentally met the Holy Clan. At first, the two sides still had a relationship. An accident occurred, but as the god of medicine, how could His Majesty the God King kill the Holy Clan for the elixir essence like ordinary people in the god realm? This clan is favored by God and has unique abilities. After many times after the confrontation, His Majesty the God King and the saints became friends. People from the Holy Tribe are natural masters of cultivating magical medicines. Because of his powerful elixir medicine skills, His Majesty the God King was impressed by the other party's accomplishments in cultivating spiritual medicines when he and the Saint Tribe's patriarch were exchanging elixirs. His Majesty's knowledge of elixirs shocked the Holy Clan's leader at the time. One day, the Saint Clan's leader made a request to His Majesty the God King. Brat said slowly. Lai, Jason, who was anxious because of the Blue Moon ancient forest, was also completely attracted by Brat's words at this moment. The Saint Clan members all appear in the form of magic medicine when they are born. When they grow to a certain level, after reaching a certain level, one would be baptized by the divine water of the clan and then turn into a human form. However, at that time, the daughter of the patriarch of the Holy Tribe, the princess of the Holy Tribe, was unable to turn into a human form after being baptized by the divine water. Such a situation is extremely rare in the Saint Clan, but it is not unheard of. Once the divine water heart dagger is received, but cannot be transformed into a human form, it means that the Saint Clan person's innate energy is insufficient and cannot be formed, otherwise how long will it take to wither, which is equivalent to the early death of human beings. But in the Holy Clan, it happens to be a single lineage. The princess is the descendant of the patriarch of the Holy Clan. For the Qian Saint Clan, this is an unbearable. The blow was caused by the fact that after knowing His Majesty the God King's achievements, the leader of the Saint clan asked His Majesty the God King to save the princess of the Saint clan. Then the princess is Lan Yugusen? Jason suddenly said. Yes. Brought nodded. After His Majesty the God King inspected it, as the god of medicine, he was naturally extremely curious about the Qian Saint clan, so he agreed to the Saint clan leader's request and took Lan Yu with him. Gusen's original holy tree left the holy clan to seek a cure. After thousands of years of research and attempts, His Majesty the God King traveled almost throughout the entire world of gods, and finally found a way to make the holy tree take shape. That is to nourish it with the essence of the 99 and 80 most powerful magical medicines in the god realm to make up for the lack of energy in the sacred tree of Blue Moon Gusen. However, before His Majesty the God King can start that at that time the war in the god realm broke out, and His Majesty the God King was forced to retreat to the Stern Continent. In the Stern Continent, His Majesty the God King did not forget his promise to the saints. Blue Moon Gusen is stored in the core of the formation, absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It also stores many of the most powerful magical medicines in the god realm around it for them to absorb. After a period of nourishment, the holy tree will turn into human form. At this point, Brat's eyes suddenly filled with tears. It's a pity that His Majesty the God King died without being able to see this day. Brat sighed deeply, his tone full of loneliness. So this is it, Jason murmured, looking down at the holy tree in his arms. At this moment, he finally understood why there was an empty room in the Divine Medicine Palace in the Cloud Swamp, and that the room is at the core of the 9 spirits Qi gathering formation. At the same time, he also understands why the essence of so many strange elixirs in the Divine Medicine Palace is completely lost, as if being swallowed by something. Jason also understood why Lan Yu Gusen found himself in the Divine Medicine Hall when he woke up when he was a child. Jason had always thought that someone had brought Lan Yu Gusen there, but he never expected that the original sacred tree of Lan Yu Gusen was originally in the Divine Medicine Hall, and it took tens of thousands of years before it successfully transformed. Then Senior Brat, what is the method you mentioned to save Lan Yu Gusen? Jason trembled. Brat turned his head and looked at Jason. Jason, once the Saint clan member dies, she will turn into the magic medicine of her own body. In this state, she does not actually die. There is still a way to save her. This way is using the sacred water unique to the saints to nourish them, can rejuvenate them and transform them into human form. However, this method is only effective once, and what I said cannot be realized, that is, the saints are in the world of gods, we are on the Stern Continent, and after so many years, I don't know if the Saint clan still exists. After all, the Saint clan's status in the god realm is too special. The celestial god realm? Jason, his fists clenched involuntarily, as if he had made a decision in his heart. His eyes instantly fell on Brat. Senior Brat, I have decided to go to the god realm. Jason looked at him determined, extremely determined. Seeing Jason's expression, Brat's face showed a hint of bitterness. Jason, in addition to this, there is actually a more serious problem, that is, you can find it even if the saints are not extinct yet, but you should find that the vitality in the holy tree transformed by Blue Moon Gusen is constantly, it is decreasing every moment. Normally, after a saint falls, he must be baptized with divine water within a month, otherwise he will also fall when the life force in his body is gone, and you will not be able to make it in time. Brat sighed. Jason was stunned, his eyes showed despair, and he trembled. Senior Brat, is there no other way to delay this process? Alas. Brat shook his head. I once heard His Majesty the God King say that if a 10th level medicine god could continuously infuse the essence of high-grade magic medicine into Lan Yu Gusen's body, this process could be delayed. However, in Stern Continent, again, where can you get top-grade magic medicine, let alone a 10th level medicine god? So, Brat couldn't help but shake his head. No, Senior Brat, I am the 10th level medicine god. At this moment, Jason's voice resounded like thunder, shocking Brat to death. No, Senior Brat, I am the 10th level medicine god. Jason's words were like thunder, leaving Brat completely stunned. His eyes fell on Jason with disbelief, as if he had never known Jason before, and he trembled. "Jason, have you been promoted to the 10th level of medicine god?" No wonder Brought was so surprised. The 10th level medicine god is too rare in the world of gods. Each one is the favor of heaven and earth, and has unpredictable talents. In the world of gods, a 10th level medicine god has the same status as a 6th level medicine god. Like a formation master, he is respected by countless powerful people. What is the concept of a 6th grade formation master? In the world of gods, the status of 4th level formation masters is extremely high. Although their strength is equivalent to that of the star god, their status is no different from that of the sun god. Once they appear, they will become the guests of all major forces, and 5th level formation masters are even rarer. In the world of gods, there are no more than 5 fingers. The original East Pole god King Stern was only a 5th level formation master, and he could be called the pinnacle of Sun Yao. Gods are respected by hundreds of millions of people in the world of gods. As for the 6th grade formation masters, they are too rare. If one appears, it will set off a storm in the world of gods, enough to attract the attention of the major god kings and come to invite them. This is just the formation master. Relatively speaking, the medicine god has a higher status. After all, formations can only improve the major forces, but the medicine god can save his own life at the most critical moment. Nothing can be exchanged for it. At this moment, Brought's sunlight god's strength fully blossomed, and a ray of fire seemed to flash across his eyes, falling on Jason. Under Brought's full observation, he discovered that Jason is indeed different now. In just 10 years, his strength has been promoted from the mid-level spiritual god to the star god. And in Jason, there was even a faint layer of fog covering his body, which shocked Brought. This kind of faint mist is not a real substance, but a manifestation of the rules of the Tao. It represents his understanding of the rules of the Tao and his understanding of life. This kind of fog, even among the sunshine gods, was unparalleled. Brought, who is said to be invincible, has never owned or controlled it. Brought has only seen it in His Majesty Stern, the god king of the East Pole. I didn't expect that Jason would be promoted to the god of medicine. It's unbelievable. Could it be that His Majesty the god king appeared in the dark? Brought murmured, his body trembling. The birth of the 10th level medicine god is too shocking. After all, in the countless thousands of years of history of the entire god realm, there have only been a few 10th level medicine gods. The difficulty is too great. 2 10th level medicine gods appear in one clan. It is almost impossible to become a medicine god. In fact, if Jason had not experienced real life and death in his 2 lives and understood the mysteries of life, he would have glimpsed the essence of elixirs during the promotion of Lan Yugusin, a princess of the Holy Clan, and he had also reached the level in his previous life. He has reached the pinnacle of the 9th level elixir master, created a new elixir school, and mastered several great elixir skills. With Jason's talent, it may take thousands of years before he even has the slightest chance of being promoted to the medicine god. However, after the shock, Brought's originally shocked face once again revealed a wry smile, and there was even more deep regret and pain in it. Jason, although you have been promoted to the 10th level of medicine god, the top-grade magic medicine can only grow in some wild and desperate places in the god realm. Where can you find the top-grade magic medicine on the Stern continent? Brought might not be so emotional when Jason was not promoted to the god of medicine, but now that Jason, as the god of medicine, did not have the top-grade magic medicine, Brought couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Lord Brought, is it possible that this huge continent of Stern doesn't even have a top-grade magic medicine? Jason said in disbelief. In his imagination, Brought, as the guardian of Stern continent, must have a high-grade magical medicine on his body. Even if he didn't have it. There might be 1 or 2 plants on the battlefield of the gods, but at this moment he heard Jason's heart sank at Brought's words. No. Brought shook his head bitterly. If it were just a magic medicine, there are still some on the mainland, but there really isn't even a single top-grade magic medicine. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been seriously injured in these years. Like this. Jason's heart trembled. Yeah, where can you get the top-grade magic medicine? Jason murmured, and the heart that had been filled with hope was now filled with despair. Jason knew where to find the magic medicine. It was the dozens of centrally mutated elixirs on Transformation Island. After Jason was promoted to the god of medicine, he also knew that those were the magic medicine. However, those magical medicines have just mutated and transformed from demigod medicines. They are only low-grade magical medicines. But if you want to cure Lan-Yu-Gusen, you must use top-grade magical medicines. This is Stern Continent. Can't find it at all. What should I do? What should I do? Jason, who was excited to find a cure before, was filled with anxiety and despair. Alas, this top-grade magical medicine is too rare. His Majesty the God King spent countless years in the God realm before he found some. However, those magical medicines were all stored in the Divine Medicine Hall of Jintong Palace and were taken over by Lan-Yu-Gusen. Absorbed. Brot couldn't help but sigh when he saw Jason's painful look. However, what Brot said was like a bright light that suddenly flashed through Jason's mind. The words immediately appeared in Jason's mind, House of Divine Medicine. At this moment, Jason suddenly thought of one thing, is that when I returned to the Jintong Palace Divine Medicine Palace, I found some medicines in the cabinets in the third room that were petrified but still contained a trace of elixir essence in their deepest parts. Materials. Jason didn't know the grade of those materials at the beginning, but with Jason's perspective now, and after listening to Brot's story, Jason understood that those petrified materials were used to be used by Blue Moon. The top-grade magic medicine absorbed by Gu Senior. Yes, I collected some residual elixir essence from the 23 types of petrified materials in the Divine Medicine Palace. Are these elixir essences effective against Blue Moon Gusen? Jason's heart suddenly pounded. It started to beat loudly. Huh. A blue light bloomed between his brows, and at the same time an amethyst potion bottle containing elixir essence appeared in his hand. This as Brot's expression was full of doubts, and the next moment, his eyes suddenly widened. Boom. The amethyst potion bottle was opened, and a surge of will suddenly spread throughout the Spirit Beast mountain range. Jason's eyes flashed with a serious expression. His hands instantly transformed into afterimages. A trace of elixir essence was pulled out from the amethyst potion bottle, and poured into the blue moon in Jason's trembling eyes. Among the holy trees, transformed by Gu Senior. An exciting scene happened for Jason. In his perception, affected by the essence of the elixir, the continuously draining essence of the several-inch-high holy tree transformed by Blue Moon Gusen stopped flowing. Instead, there was a touch of fullness. Successful, successful. Jason said excitedly. Immediately, his sharp eyes fell on Brot. Senior Brot, I am going to the God realm. Is there anything you can do? Sun deeply understood that the elixir essence in his body was not unlimited. At most, it could only delay the death of Lan-Yu-Gu Senator. If he really wanted to save Lan-Yu-Gusen, he had to go to the God realm of that day. This go to the God realm. Brot lowered his head and pondered. After a long while under Jason's expectant eyes, he slowly nodded. There is indeed a way to go to the God realm from here, but it is too dangerous, Brot said, but when he saw Jason's firm gaze, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. That's all, give me 10 days. Get ready, I will help you open a passage to the heavenly God realm. The heavenly God realm is a higher plane than the Stern Continent. In ancient times, there was a passage connecting the two planes on the Stern Continent. A complete passage, as long as someone on the mainland reaches the God level, they can go to the world of gods through this passage. In ancient times, this was called breaking through the sky, or ascension. However, due to the war between the gods tens of thousands of years ago, the passage between the two planes was completely closed. The East Pole god King Stern completely wrapped up the Stern Continent with formations to prevent outsiders. Arrive at Stern Continent through the space channel. However, the inability of powerful men from the heavenly god realm to come to the Stern Continent does not mean that people on the Stern Continent cannot go to the heavenly god realm. When the East Pole God King sealed off the Stern Continent, he left a formation in the formation passage, and this passage is only known to Brought, who is one of the 5 great generals. All Brought had to do was restart the channel, a process that took 10 days. After learning that Jason was leaving Stern, Bispham and the others all gathered together. Reno, Yulia and others who were far away in the territory of chaos and only learned the news later also came to the Spirit Beast mountain range. Unexpectedly, no one here tried to dissuade Jason. After spending so long together, everyone understood that there was no way to dissuade Jason from what he decided, and no one would do so for Lon Yugusin. During the 10 days, everyone enjoyed the rare reunion, but Jason was not idle, but continued to learn everything about the God realm from Adcock and the others. Brought said before preparations that the passage connecting the 2 planes was extremely dangerous and required a large amount of rare materials. It could only accommodate 1 person to go to the God realm. Jason could only take advantage of these 10 days to all the knowledge of the evil buddy in God realm. Time flies, and the years fly by. In the blink of an eye, 10 days passed. On this day, under the leadership of Brought, everyone came to an ancient stone platform engraved with complex patterns. Brought's hands gently pressed it. Boom! A bright light burst out from it, the formation revived, and a strange space channel suddenly appeared in the void in front of everyone. Everyone, farewell. Jason looked at everyone, especially his father Renaud, mother Yulia, and his 3 disciples. He couldn't help but feel sad. Immediately, Jason stepped into the scene without hesitation. In the endless dark space passage, the next moment, the space passage suddenly closed and disappeared. Jason, you must come back alive. Renaud and Yulia clasped their hands and looked at the empty void. Everyone prayed silently in their hearts, praying for Jason's safe return. Realm of Gods. This is a vast world, gloomy and depressing. There was a thick layer of dark clouds in the sky, and the blood-colored evil energy circulated in it, reflecting the sky and the earth in a shocking bright color. Under the dark sky, there is a vast black wilderness. As far as the eye can see, there are dark mountains all over, which makes people feel a kind of silent palpitations in their hearts. The ancient wild land is one of the most chaotic areas in the heavenly God realm. It is located at the extreme northern end of the dark realm of the heavenly God realm. In the God realm, there are 2 continents and 7 domains. Each domain is controlled by a God King. Between the 2 continents is the vast Sea of Thunder, and in the center is Thunder Island. It is controlled by Elixir, one of the 8 God Kings. The God King controls it. In addition, the God realm is a vast territory with many uninhabited lands and dangerous secret realms. No one knows how big the heavenly God realm is, and no one knows how many powerful people are hidden in the heavenly God realm. At this moment, in the vast wilderness in the eastern part of the wild ancient land, fine space cracks kept flashing and emerging. These space cracks were as small as only a few inches and as large as 10 feet long. They kept emerging and were extremely horrible and amazing. The Rift Wasteland is the name of this area. There is also a widely circulated legend about the formation of this strange space. According to legend, millions of years ago, 2 God Kings from the heavenly world met to fight for a woman. The location of that battle, it is in this wild ancient land. The God King is the most powerful force and the most pinnacle figure in the world of gods. Normally, there will be no war or conflict between the 2 God Kings. After all, the war between the God Kings has such a wide impact that it can easily affect the entire world. The forces of the God realm were involved, and the 2 God Kings actually fought over a woman, which naturally caused a lot of discussion in the God realm. In that battle, the heaven and the earth shattered, and countless calamities turned to ashes. The powerful void of the God realm was shattered. The strongest blow of the two god kings directly left a dangerous place in this wild ancient land that has been left for thousands of years. It's this cracked wasteland. Huh. At this moment, in the airspace not far from the cracked wasteland, a team of hundreds of people was driving past. Everyone in this team wears black armor and rides on a flying beast with the head of an ox and the body of a horse. There is amazing energy flowing in the body. The eyes are firm, and when they are closed, the divine light shines, full of huge power. Among these hundreds of people, there are 5 dragon chariots pulled by 10 dragons. The leading one is carved with complex and profound textures and is full of vitality. Looking at it, it is obvious that there are people riding on it, and the 4 dragon chariots behind it. The chariot is filled with cargo. This is a caravan from the world of gods. Uncle Fu, where are we? A female voice suddenly came from the first dragon chariot. Walking at the front of the team was an old man with gray beard and hair, his mottled face full of traces of age. He looked up at the cracked wasteland not far away, patted the mount on his crotch, and the mount immediately roared and came to the first dragon chariot in the middle of the team. Miss, we are reaching the Fisher Wasteland. According to experience, we can reach the Great Wasteland City in about 3 days. The white-haired old man whispered. Cracked wasteland? The curtains of the dragon chariot were opened, revealing a pretty face. This was a woman who didn't look very big. Although she was riding in the dragon chariot, she didn't look weak like other ladies. It felt like she was wearing a purple gold flower crown, bright silver armor, and a pair of heroic eyes, quietly looking at the cracked wasteland not far away, giving people a unique feeling of being heroic and heroic. Uncle Fu, tell the team to speed up through this cracked wasteland. The caravan will rest on the spot after passing through. A clear voice sounded. The old man nodded, patted his mount, and issued the order. This is the Rift Wasteland. It's incredible. Look, that space rift is so big. If we get caught in it, we'll all be doomed. The team slowly passed through the Rift Wasteland. Among them were the 2 newcomers who had just joined the team. Looked at the cracks that were emerging not far away, with wonder and a hint of fear in their eyes. In the world of gods, only those at the level of upper-level spiritual gods can survive in these cracks for a short period of time. Once they are involved, like low-level spiritual gods or middle-level spiritual gods, they will only die unless they are lucky. Haha, seeing how cowardly you are, please rest assured. The place we are passing through is a safe passage, and it was found by our seniors from the World Chamber of Commerce. No other forces know about it. It is extremely safe. A middle-aged man laughed. Huh? Suddenly, he got excited. His expression was startled, as if he had seen a ghost. His eyes were not far away in horror. Attracted by his gaze, the 2 newcomers couldn't help but look over. At this glance, they too stunned. Boom! I saw a huge black hole suddenly appeared in the depths full of space cracks, and a figure fell out of it. This figure was wearing a gray robe, with bloodstains on his body, and the whole person looked extremely embarrassed. The figure that suddenly appeared from the crack in space was none other than Jason. Is this here? As soon as Jason appeared, he couldn't help but jump, and a wry smile appeared on his face. When he entered the passage under Brat's control, he thought it was extremely safe, but he didn't expect that the violent people in this space passage would. The particle turbulence was extremely terrifying. Even with his cultivation level, he was in a state of embarrassment and was injured repeatedly. Only then did he come to the God realm. Only then did Jason understand why Brat told him to be careful before he entered the passage. As soon as he arrived at the God realm, Jason's eyes immediately began to scan the surroundings. Wherever he could see, there were space cracks emerging one after another. At the same time, the dark sky of the ancient wild land was also reflected. Jason's eyes. However, the spiritual energy here is very abundant. As soon as Jason took a breath, he felt the pure spiritual energy filling the air, rolling in. It seemed that the whole world was filled with concentrated spiritual energy. This spiritual energy, both in quality and quantity, is far superior to that of stern continent. Even compared to the battlefield of gods, it is countless times stronger, giving Jason a feeling of enlightenment and comfort all over his body. Moreover, Jason felt the laws of the air carefully and discovered that the space here was so strong that it was unimaginable. Even the upper spiritual gods could not tear the space apart and fly through the void. They could only fly. Of course, with the strength of Jason Xingyao God, he can still break through the space and carry out teleportation, but the spiritual power consumed is an unparalleled amount. I am afraid that not long after entering the void, the divine power in the body will be completely destroyed. Consume cleanly. You must know that although Jason is only the star god, the divine power in his body is the five-element divine power derived from the spiritual god art. It is stronger than the moonlight god, but it can only be like this. From this, it can be imagined that in this god in the world, I am afraid that even the moonlight god can only fly, and will not fly through the void. I finally arrived in the god realm, but where am I now? I must not be familiar with the god realm, Jason thought secretly in his heart. Although before going to the heavenly god realm, Jason had already imparted some knowledge about the heavenly god realm to Adcock and the others, the heavenly god realm was so vast that Jason could not understand much in just 10 days. Kirk and the others couldn't tell Jason everything in detail, they could only tell Jason some basic knowledge. Lan Yuigusan only has a short year. With my current strength comparable to that of Yuehui God, I must first find a city and understand the complete information before deciding what to do. Jason's eyes were full of energy. The light flickered. After 10 days of experiments on Stern Continent, Jason discovered it. The little essence of the top-grade magic medicine that she carries can only keep Blue Moongusan alive for 1 year. Plus, she can sustain it for 1 month. All in all, Jason only has 1 year and 1 month left. That is to say, during this period of time, Jason must find the saints, obtain the divine water, or find new high-grade magical medicine to maintain the vitality of the Blue Moon Ancient Senator, otherwise, the Blue Moon Ancient Senior will completely fall. Jason is not worried about his own survival in the God Realm. Although the God Realm is extremely rich in spiritual energy, most babies will be able to reach the 9th level of sainthood when they reach adulthood, but not everyone can become a god. In the world of gods, 9th level Holy Spirit Masters are slave-like existences. Only when you reach demigods can you have some status, but only a little status. Only after you become a god can you be considered a true person in the divine world. However, the lower spiritual gods are the weakest gods. When you reach the intermediate spiritual gods, he has a certain status, equivalent to a squire or a landowner in the world, but he is still under the jurisdiction of many people. The status of a superior spiritual god is higher, equivalent to a big landowner, a rich man in the city, and when he reaches the gods, he is the real superior person in the world of gods, an out-and-out giant, like Jason, who is comparable to the moonlight god with strength. You can go to most places in the god realm. But the most urgent thing is to understand where you are now. Jason's eyes immediately fell on the team not far away. With Jason's eyes, he could immediately tell that among the team of hundreds of people, the strongest one was the white-haired old man who was the leader, a high-ranking spiritual god, and the rest were more than 20 the strength of a mid-level spiritual god and 70 or 80 lower-level spiritual gods. Even though Jason was seriously injured inside, was not enough for a master like Jason who could easily kill the star god. Having made up his mind, Jason immediately staggered towards the team and flew away. During the flight, Jason looked panicked and walked awkwardly through the space cracks. Combined with his blood-stained robe, he looked like a seriously injured person who was about to die. The world of gods is extremely dangerous. Although he has absolute strength, Jason will still not expose himself easily. When he saw Jason's actions, the big man who noticed Jason for the first time immediately started to drink loudly, and the whole team immediately stopped. Everyone drew their weapons and looked at Jason, who suddenly appeared warily. "What's going on?" The clear voice sounded again from the first dragon chariot. Miss, according to reports from my subordinates, a person suddenly appeared in the cracked wasteland and was flying towards our team. The white-haired old man said seriously. According to the reports from his subordinates, the man emerged from the sudden space crack. In the world of gods, only high-level spiritual gods can survive in the space cracks for a short period of time. Once ordinary low-level spiritual gods and middle-level spiritual gods are involved, if it enters, almost 95% will be wiped out. Obviously, this suddenly appeared seriously injured man is most likely to be a spiritual godlike existence, and there is even a certain probability that he is a god-level figure. The old man was quite worried. A person appeared in the cracked wasteland? The curtain of the dragon chariot opened quietly, and the pretty woman walked out with solemn eyes. Who? Who? She and the old man didn't say anything, and went directly to the front of the team facing Jason. Mississippi. The guards and the team all said respectfully. The regretful woman nodded and said nothing. No matter who that man is, I hope that when he comes over, he'd better be involved in the space crack. Looking at Jason's somewhat embarrassed figure, the old man thought to himself. But to his disappointment, Jason was still staggered out of the space crack, despite being extremely embarrassed. Chong. The sound of weapons being unsheathed almost simultaneously echoed throughout the world. All the guards looked at Jason warily, waiting for the order from the young lady and the old man. Pfft. As soon as Jason appeared, he spat out a mouthful of blood and looked extremely depressed. Miss, this man is a high-ranking spiritual god. The old man's voice sounded next to the pretty woman, with a hint of happiness in his tone. A senior spiritual god who was seriously injured, the old man boasted that even if the other party had malicious intentions, he could resist it. The pretty woman nodded, and immediately took a step forward. Senior, I am Long Inua from the Tianxia Chamber of Commerce in Dahuang City. I wonder if I have come to my team specifically to give you any advice? I am 6 passers-by, passing by here. I was surrounded by the enemy and was seriously injured. I accidentally fell into the space turbulence. I luckily escaped, but I accidentally got lost here. I hope you can provide me with a map. I am very grateful. Jason scanned everyone, looked at him and said calmly. Miss, what should I do? The old man asked from the side. However, before the pretty woman could say anything, a rather handsome middle-aged man on the side quietly sent a message to the woman and the old man. Little sniper, Elder Lin Fu, we actually encountered a seriously injured high-level spiritual god here, and we don't know where he came from. He is lost here. If we kill him and obtain his high-level god chain, our Chamber of Commerce will in a short time, maybe a high-level spiritual god will emerge. The handsome man's eyes flashed, and there was a trace of murderous intent in his heart. Although Jason stood far away, he could clearly feel the murderous intention of the other party. This idea? The white-haired old man's heart moved, and he also had a hint of intention. He looked at the pretty woman, waiting for her decision. Giles, don't be ridiculous. The ancient wilderness has been very unstable recently. All major forces have gathered together. Our World Chamber of Commerce has a small family business. If we are not careful, we are in danger of destruction. The pretty woman looked at the handsome man, with a trace of contentment in her eyes. Jason watched quietly from a distance without making a sound. He could feel that the leader of this team should be the pretty woman in front of the team. Woman, this woman is wearing a bright silver battle armor, she is very heroic, and there is a steady aura between her eyebrows. She is obviously not just an ordinary lady, but her cultivation has reached the level of the middle spiritual god. She seems to be breakthrough to the realm of the upper spiritual god. But, miss, your cultivation has reached the peak of the middle spiritual god. You are only a little short of it. As long as you touch the edge of the rules of the Great Road, you can become the upper spiritual god. In this way, our Chamber of Commerce will add another high-ranking spiritual god, and its position in Dahuang City will be more stable. The handsome man transmitted the message again. Nonsense, our World Chamber of Commerce is not evil, and this person's origin is unknown. One has a great background, doesn't it bring disaster to our World Chamber of Commerce? Moreover, the goods we are transporting this time are not trivial. There are already many dangers on the road. If there are more extraneous problems, things will inevitably change. Focus on good causes and get good results. The pretty woman glanced coldly at the man and said, "Let's let this matter go. Don't mention it again." The handsome man looked at the white-haired old man beside him, but the old man's eyes were indifferent and he didn't speak. As the elder of the Chamber of Commerce, he was assisting the young lady this time, mainly with the young lady. Although in a place like the ancient wilderness, the emphasis is on the law of the jungle, and there is no kindness to speak of, but the young lady is what he has seen since childhood. Although her kind character is a bit pedantic, it is also something that the old man appreciates and loves. After the woman finished scolding the handsome man, stepped forward and faced Jason. "Senior, although our Tianxia Chamber of Commerce is only a small chamber of commerce, we will not sit back and ignore the difficulties of our seniors. I have a map of the surrounding area, and I will give it to my seniors here. Please accept it, senior, and this Fisher wasteland is extremely dangerous. Later, seniors can follow our team and leave the Fisher wasteland together." While speaking, the pretty woman took out a fluorescent jade slip from her body and threw it to Jason. "Thank you very much." Jason took the jade slip and nodded. "You have helped me these 3 times, and you have planted good karma. If there is a chance in the future, I will definitely repay you." "Senior, I was joking. I don't want to repay you for this little thing. I just want to form a good relationship." After the pretty woman finished speaking, she immediately returned to her chariot. Mississippi. After the pretty woman returned to the dragon chariot, the handsome man immediately followed her and said anxiously, "This safe passage in the cracked wasteland was explored by our seniors of the Tianxia Chamber of Commerce who spent a lot of energy and life. Now, if you let this kid follow us, wouldn't it mean that the other party knows this path? Once it is exposed, then Giles, the crack wasteland is full of space cracks, which are more or less the same, and the space cracks change all the time. It is impossible for the other party to completely remember the road after walking through it, and it doesn't matter even if it is remembered, this passage is not static. Depending on the season, the path of the passage is also different. It is not a big deal for him to follow. Okay, you go on duty in the team. The team will set off immediately." The pretty woman glanced at the handsome man and closed the curtain on the dragon chariot. After a brief rest, the team of the Tianxia Chamber of Commerce immediately set off again. However, the team's original position at this moment was different from before. Changes. At the back of the team, there are several more guards at the peak of the spiritual god. At the same time, the old man who was walking in front of the team now comes to the center of the team, staring at Jason behind the team. Fight this, however, Jason did not pay attention to the changes. He just followed the opponent's team unhurriedly and at the same time took the jade slip given by the pretty woman in his hand. Holding the jade slip, Jason did not use his spiritual consciousness rashly. Entering, but carefully observing the jade gem, after discovering that there were no restrictions or dangers above, he completely penetrated his consciousness into it. Boom! With the entry of Jason's consciousness, a large amount of information poured into Jason's mind like a tide. Although the Tianxia Chamber of Commerce is only a large chamber of commerce in the deserted city of this wild ancient land, it has a reputation in the entire wild ancient land. It's not too obvious, but as a traveling chamber of commerce, the collection of map information is far beyond what ordinary forces can match. In an instant, all the information about the entire ancient wilderness entered Jason's mind. "I didn't expect that I actually got here." After learning about the area where he was, Jason suddenly showed a wry smile. The heavenly god realm is divided into 2 continents. This wild ancient land is the smaller continent in the west of the Sea of Thunder. The northern end, and according to what Senior Brat said, the saint race that Ancestor Stern was looking for was in the middle of the larger continent east of the Sea of Thunder. In other words, Jason wanted to find the Saint race. The original habitat must pass through this continent and cross the vast Sea of Thunder to the center of the eastern continent. The world of gods is extremely vast and vast. If you want to cross this distance, even the sun god who can travel through the void must. I'm afraid it will take at least hundreds of years to arrive, and Jason doesn't know how long it will take. It seems that it is impossible to directly find God to resurrect Lan-Yu-Gusen. My most pressing concern now is, I came to a high-grade magical medicine. According to calculations, the elixir essence contained in each high-grade magical medicine is enough to maintain the Blue Moon Gusen for another 100 years. At that time, I can completely hit the road. Jason silently made up his mind. Although the Fisher Wasteland is dangerous, it is not big. Under the leadership of the Tianxia Chamber of Commerce team, the pedestrians quickly left the Fisher Wasteland. Senior, this place is already here. When we reach a safe area, we say goodbye. The pretty woman spoke respectfully to Jason, and immediately led the team to leave the wasteland. Although she was extremely kind-hearted, as the host of the caravan, she was not naive. She could help with a little effort, but she would never let him. A stranger followed the caravan. After all, this was not just about her. Jason, who saw the other person's concerns, did not follow him. Looking at the other person's retreating figure, Jason immediately looked for a place to practice cross-legged. Jason's body was severely torn by the violent force of space during the passage from Stern Continent to the God Realm. It must be completely healed before Jason can set off again. Inside the body, the spirit god art was slowly operating, and the injured body in Jason's body slowly healed. At the same time, the violent space power that penetrated into the body was slowly refined by Jason, forming a group essence. The pure power of space is preserved. The closest one to here is the Great Desert City. Let's go there first and see if there is any news about the top-grade magic medicine. Whoops. After doing this, Jason rose directly into the sky and turned into a 5-color stream of light towards the location of Dahuang City was plundered wildly. At this moment, in a certain mountain range far in front of Jason. Boom. A soaring spiritual energy spread out and spread throughout the mountain range. Haha, those who know the current affairs are heroes. Under the siege of our Black Dragon Mountain, do you still want to escape? Hand over your things obediently. You may still have a chance of survival, otherwise, a loud voice said. It echoed between heaven and earth, full of tyranny and arrogance. Chief Wero, our World Chamber of Commerce and your Black Dragon Mountain, Xiangjingshui River. If the 3 leaders are short of financial support, I, Lin Fu, can make the decision and provide some financial support to the brothers in Black Dragon Mountain. I also ask Leader Jiang to provide me with the financial support of Tianxia. To save face from the Chamber of Commerce, when the time comes, I, President Long Lin of the World Chamber of Commerce, will definitely come to pay my respects in person. The rumbling voice resounded. In the valley, dozens of guards from the Tianxia Chamber of Commerce gathered around 5 dragon chariots, looking slightly nervous. In the center of them, Long Yingyue and Lin Fu looked gloomy. And around them were more than 100 arrogant spiritual gods in black. Each of these people looked at the surrounded Lin Fu and others with ferocious expressions, holding weapons and with madness in their eyes. The leaders were 3 cold men in black robes. There was an astonishing aura rising from each nose, clearly showing extraordinary strength. In the valley between the 2 sides, there were scattered corpses lying there. Judging from their clothes, most of them were guards from the World Chamber of Commerce. It was obvious that the 2 sides had already had a fierce battle before. Haha, Elder Lin Fu, are you kidding me? I, Barrett, have limited patience. I will give you 10 seconds to think about it. If you don't accept it, don't blame me, Barrett, for being cruel. The leader of the men in black, the burly big man, held 2 hammers and sneered. Brother, what are you talking nonsense to them? Kill them all, leaving no one alive. Are you afraid that you won't be able to get the things? Another big man with a scar on his face said fiercely. Second brother, others can be killed, but the eldest lady of the World Chamber of Commerce is said to be the most beautiful woman in Dahuang City. Now, look, her reputation is well-deserved. We must not kill him. I will take third brother back to Black Dragon Mountain to treat him well. Hee hee, it's up to you how you want to deal with it when the time comes, haha. The thin man among the three leaders couldn't help but laugh ferociously, looking at Long Inuan not far away with lustful eyes. Looks extremely vulgar. Chief Ferret, aren't you afraid of the revenge of our World Chamber of Commerce? Lin Fulin shouted coldly. It seems that Elder Lin Fu is unwilling to hand over the things? In that case, the black-robed leader's face darkened. Kill me, no one will be spared. Boom, as the leader's words fell, more than 100 bandits instantly transformed into 5 color streams of light, rushing towards the ranks of the World Chamber of Commerce. Kill. The crazy fighting broke out in an instant. Recommended to everyone, this book, Prehistoric World game player Wang Xiao, was accidentally reborn in a real world that is 70% similar to the Prehistoric World game, and became 6 ordinary outer disciples of the Tianyao sect, one of the 8 sects of the Eastern Wasteland. They relied on their foresight to obtain the first volume of the ancient sutra that created the world, and thus embarked on an extraordinary path of cultivation. Rumble. A shocking battle broke out at this moment. The 3 leaders of Black Dragon Mountain are all high-ranking spiritual gods, but the World Chamber of Commerce has only one white-haired old man. In terms of top-notch force and numbers, the Black Dragon Mountain bandits are suppressing them. On the other side, there was no suspense in the entire battle. The moment the battle broke out, the scene fell to one side. Pfft. Blood splashed in the sky, painful wails sounded, and the guards of the Tianxia Chamber of Commerce were killed one by one, and their bodies were found in different places. Haha, die. One of the 3 leaders of Black Dragon Mountain stood proudly in the sky, looking coldly at the entire battle scene. One was fighting against the old man Lin Fu, and the last one was among the guards of the Tianxia Chamber of Commerce. Mass killing. Poof. The 3 thin leaders of Black Dragon Mountain seemed to be in a deserted place. The soft black sword in their hands passed through streaks of light. Wherever it passed, blood and severed limbs were thrown everywhere, and the screams continued to sound. It turned the entire valley into a hell on earth. A rather young guard of the Tianxia Chamber of Commerce with a still childish look on his face, his eyes were red, and he shouted fiercely as he raised the sword in his hand. The vast aura of divine power soared into the sky and struck fiercely at the 3 leaders of Black Dragon Mountain. However, he was completely defeated. Even the sword was split in half, the divine body collapsed, and blood spurted out. Haha, it feels so good to kill. The 3 leaders of Black Dragon Mountain laughed crazily with ferocious faces. In the blink of an eye, several people had died under his strange black sword, and more than a dozen people were killed by him. The sword light slashed and wounded him, and he was in a miserable state. Huh? After killing several more people, the eyes of the 3 leaders of Black Dragon Mountain fell on the pretty woman who was not far away, and there was a lustful light in the depths of his eyes. Miss Long, let me, Inez, come and meet you for a while. The 3 leaders of Black Dragon Mountain laughed loudly, and their bodies turned into a rainbow of light and rushed directly towards the pretty woman. Miss, run away quickly, I'll stop them. The white-haired old man looked at this scene, his eyes were red, and he slashed open the 2nd leader of Black Dragon Mountain who was fighting with him with a knife, quickly stood in front of Inez, and attacked Zolongianu shouted loudly. Go away. Inez, the 3rd leader, looked crazy and shouted fiercely, slashing with the strange long sword and colliding with the sword in Lin Fu's hand. Boom! The overwhelming spiritual power surged, and both of them stepped back more than 10 meters. Your opponent is me. A cold voice sounded. The 2 leaders of Black Dragon Mountain rushed forward and took action. The 2 high-ranking spiritual gods joined forces and knocked Lin Fu back repeatedly, but he still insisted on holding on. Living. This Lin Fu deserves to be the elder of the World Chamber of Commerce. He has traveled all over the world and passed through countless dangerous places. His strength is indeed extraordinary. It would be a waste of time to continue like this. At this moment, the big leader Verret also noticed the scene here, shouted coldly, and joined in. The three high-ranking spiritual gods of the battle group took action at the same time. Lin Fu was unable to resist, and a long wound was torn open on his body, and blood spurted out. Uncle Fu. Long Inua's eyes filled with tears. She gritted her teeth and immediately turned around and stormed towards the cracked wasteland. She knew that with her peak strength as a middle spiritual god, it was impossible to escape very far. Only by returning to the Fisher Wasteland and entering the passage known only to the World Chamber of Commerce would she have a chance of survival. Brother, I'll go after this girl. The third among the Black Dragon Mountain bandits smiled ferociously, and immediately broke away from the battle group and chased Long Inue. Lin Fu on the side wanted to stop him, but was stopped by the two leaders of Wero. Tangled and unable to escape. Boom! In the sky above the wild ancient land, two rainbows of light were like lightning, one behind the other, one escaping and the other chasing each other, rushing towards the Fisher Wasteland. Haha, Miss Long, stop resisting. It's impossible for you to escape. Surrender to me, Inez, and I promise to give you a way to survive. In the sky over the ancient wild land, Inez laughed crazily, constantly chasing Long Inue in front of him. What should I do? What should I do? Long Inue was anxious. Feeling Inez approaching behind her, she had no idea at all. In the family, she is a strong woman. She can deal with all the major forces. Although she is a daughter, her status in the family is extremely high, otherwise the family would not let her lead. Chamber of Commerce, transporting important cargo. But under the current situation, her heart was full of panic. The bloody scene of Uncle Fu made her feel extremely painful. She didn't want to escape, but she also understood that under the current situation, it was impossible for her to stay. It has no effect, but now, even escaping has become a luxury for her. Although she has reached the peak of the middle spiritual god and is only one step away from the upper spiritual god, this step away represents two completely different realms. It's too late. We're still some distance away from the Fisher Wasteland. The divine power in my body has been almost consumed by the previous explosion, the pretty woman said with despair in her heart. Am I really going to die here today? Even if I don't. Even if I die, I cannot fall into the hands of the three leaders of Black Dragon Mountain. The pretty woman thought sadly and angrily in her heart. At this moment, she who was almost desperate in her heart suddenly opened her eyes wide and looked towards own front. At the end of the line of sight in the distance, a figure in a grey robe was flying towards his direction. It was the black-haired young man he had helped in the crack wasteland. Senior, save your next life. Just like a drowning person grasping the last life-saving straw, a glimmer of hope for life suddenly appeared in the heart of the pretty woman, and she shouted loudly, with a clear and beautiful voice. The gloomy sky of the ancient wild land suddenly reverberated, adding a bit of brightness. At the same time, the pretty woman used all her strength to fly quickly towards Jason's location. Huh? Inez looked around and saw Jason's figure. Boom. Not caring about teasing Long Inue anymore, he turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the opponent. The strange black long sword in his hand suddenly started to dance. Chi. Dozens of black sword rainbows suddenly appeared in the void. These sword rainbows quickly connected together, and finally formed a black light network, falling towards Long Inue's location. No. The long whip in Long Inue's hand shook and turned into thousands of green rainbow shadows. She tried to block Inez's attack, but was unable to do anything. She could only watch the black sword rainbow in the sky envelope her body. At this moment, boom. A bright five-color divine light suddenly appeared in the void, like a galaxy rippling across the sky, directly hitting the black sword rainbow released by Inez. Poof. The black sword rainbow scattered across the sky, turning into black light spots and dissipating in the wind. Jason, wearing a gray robe, came directly not far from Long Inu. Senior. Long Inu was overjoyed and came to Jason's side. Inez's face darkened, and his face looked extremely ugly. He looked at Jason and cupped his hands. "Your Excellency, I am Inez of Black Dragon Mountain. This matter is my private matter of Black Dragon Mountain and has nothing to do with you. I hope you will give me some advice. I'm just trying to save face, so don't get involved in this matter." With Inez's character, if someone dared to stop her, he would have already taken action. However, from the previous simple confrontation and the aura exuding from Jason, Inez felt that it was not easy for Jason to speak like this. "Senior." Long Inua's heart sank, and she looked at Jason nervously. Black Dragon Mountain was not a super powerful force in this area, but it was not an ordinary person either. Long Inua was worried whether Jason would do it for herself. Offending the other party, after all, Long Inua knew in her heart that although the black-haired young man was also a high-ranking spiritual god, he had been seriously injured before and might not be willing to wade into this muddy water. Black Dragon Mountain? A smile appeared on Jason's lips. Yes. Inez also had a smile on her face, but Long Inua's heart couldn't help but sink. What the hell is that? I've never heard of it. Jason's voice changed and he sneered. You, Inez was furious, who do you think you are? Go to hell. The black monster sword in Inez's hand suddenly started to dance, and the image of the black sword in the sky was densely packed with octopus tentacles. It turned into a mass of blackness and enveloped Jason. At this moment, nothing can be distinguished between heaven and earth. Only this black light and shadow is left, filling the entire world. The entire void seems to have solidified at this moment. The strange power and rules of space are wrapped around Jason and Long In. Moon. Broken. Jason pointed out with an indifferent look. Boo. Jason's fingers seemed to touch the calm water for an instant, and ripples suddenly appeared in the black void, and then fell into pieces. What? Inez was shocked. Before he could react, Jason's finger was still on his forehead. Pfft. Divine power penetrated the brain, instantly crushing Inez's mind. Inez's originally frightened and angry expression froze, her eyes completely dimmed, and her body fell from the sky weakly. Jason waved his hand, and Inez's body suddenly turned into ashes and completely turned into nothingness. Senior Long Inua on the side looked at this scene blankly, completely shocked, and then turned to look at Jason, as if he was meeting this person for the first time. You helped me before and planted good karma. Now that I save you, it is the repayment of karma. Jason smiled. Senior, I hope Senior can save our Tianxia Chamber of Commerce. Long Inua, who was originally stunned, suddenly thought of something at this moment, begged in a hurry, and then quickly told Jason the previous situation in the valley. Jason's previous methods made Long Inua understand that the senior he had helped was definitely not an ordinary person. Is that so? Jason frowned and looked into the distance. Without saying a word, he grabbed Long Inu and turned it into a stream of light, rushing towards the valley. Saving one person is saving a group of people is also saving, and Jason also understands in his heart that he is not familiar with this wild ancient land at all. If he wants to find the top-grade magic medicine, he must have a force to help him inquire about it. This World Chamber of Commerce, however, not losing is a good entry point. It turns out that the first ally of the Little Master, Long Inua, is a boy. Khan, the Little Master, has been written as a female. This is really not intentional, but Long Inua, this name is indeed a name, hee.